I hear rumors that you Kenyans are looking to attract investors. You're looking to create jobs by encouraging both local and international investors, and by making Kenya a conducive investment environment. I have heard such rumors. And I'm emphasizing that they're rumors because a recent very bizarre case totally contradicts, and you will never convince me that you're looking for investors based on this latest drama. And of course, the drama involves a businesswoman called Ann Njoroge with over 3 decades experience in business, who is now said to be missing. Yep, you heard me right, missing. But her lawyers say that since she went to record a statement at the DCI in Nairobi, when she tried to leave, she was blocked and she has been held in custody since then, which is of course against our laws of the land. You can't just choose to hold somebody for long periods of time without charging them in court or presenting them in court to give the court a reason for your holding them. That's our law. But let us just pray that her lawyers are right, and that she's being held, and that she'll be released, because other things could happen. She could vanish. The government could tell us they have no idea where she is. This has happened before. Anyway, let's get to the bottom of this case. Very fascinating and very revealing. And as usual, let us start this story at the beginning. Early this month, when I got some information that some cargo of oil was stuck in the high seas, not able to dock in Kenya, I was fascinated by this information. And my initial guess as to what was going on was wrong, because I guessed somebody had imported this oil and there was no market for it in Kenya because demand has gone so low because of taxes and the environment and so on and so forth. And my guess was that the importer was a government bigwig. Slightly over a week later, the full story started to emerge, and it was very different from what I originally thought. The information that I had received was spot on. Yeah. However, this cargo belonged to a Kenyan businesswoman, not somebody with strong government links, as I had initially thought. And the issue was not lack of demand. The issue was new government regulations on the importation of petroleum products. For anybody who's getting very confused about the unfolding saga of Ann Njoroge, when you understand that simple sentence, you will never get confused. Now, Ann Njoroge's lawyers are telling us that their client was tricked. Please take careful note of that word, tricked. And at the end of this trickery, her ship ended up docking at Mombasa, and another company claimed the very huge cargo of diesel, about 100,000 metric tons, worth a cool Kenya shillings 17 billion. And so what Ann Njoroge's lawyers were telling us is that her cargo was grabbed. You know the way land in Kenya is grabbed? Her lawyers claimed that her cargo was grabbed. Somebody just came and claimed it, and they're insisting it belongs to them. That is the crux of the issue here, and it gets even more interesting. The company which has claimed the cargo is called Galana Energies. And guess what Galana Energies are saying? They're not saying this cargo is ours. Here's the proof. We're the ones who imported this cargo. It originated from this and that place. We are the ones who did it. Here's the documentation. They're not saying that at all. And what they're saying is super instructive. This is what they're saying. This is what they told the press. We are duly licensed by EPRA. That is the Energies Petroleum Regulation Authority of Kenya. And nobody can import fuel, petroleum products into the country without a license from EPRA. We have a license from EPRA. And of course, Galana goes on to refer to legal notice number 3 of the year 2023. And guess what that legal notice is about? It is about government to government. Petroleum imports into the country. Yes, the controversial one. Now I'm going slowly, I don't want to lose anybody. And therefore those of us who are much faster, maybe in the industry, maybe mezoe kizungu mingi, please be patient with me. Because this saga gets much more than interesting. And the super fascinating thing is that it has happened before in our history. Oh yes, it has. With devastating consequences. Somebody even lost their life. But we'll come back to that in a moment. For now, please allow me to give you a very important heads up. At least this information will prove to be valuable to some of us on this channel. Now, we all know that times are very hard. Yeah? And people in business, people want to promote their businesses, are having a very difficult time reaching their potential clients. And you know, this is critical for any business to survive during these hard times. Somehow you have to get business. Now I have the greatest news. This channel reaches a very unique audience. Kenyans in the diaspora, older Kenyans. You know, the channels reach a lot of young people. Yeah, and unfortunately, most young people don't have much purchasing power. But the purchasing power in the views on this channel are huge. And we have proved that. Somebody advertised some land the other day in Naivasha. Within hours of that video going up, it was sold. And we're talking about a double-digit million. And therefore, if you have a product or service that you need to promote, I think you should seriously consider sponsoring a Kumekucha video. Yeah, that means that you get a mention in one of my videos and a lot more to let others know what you're doing. And I'm sure a lot of your potential clients always tune in very regularly to this channel. And therefore it is a fabulous, amazing opportunity for you to reach your audience very cheaply and very effectively. Kindly check in the description area of this video for more details. And then you can also send me an email on that email address you see on your screens right now, or even call directly on that number for more information. Now, of course, space is limited. Yeah, we already have 1 or 2 people lined up, and it's very limited because we can't do this for everybody. And we do not produce that many videos. Yeah, therefore I suggest that you take action immediately so that you don't lose this golden opportunity. Back to the saga of Ann Njoroge, the super fascinating saga. Now, I cannot help but link this latest controversial saga to some other shocking information I received very recently. Okay? Now, according to my informant, a very reliable informant, who over the years has given me a lot of reliable information. According to this information, there are some very fishy, dodgy things happening in the importation of commodities. Now don't worry, I'm not going to go into the intricacies of commodity importation. No way. Yeah, there is something much bigger that gives us a bigger picture of what is happening here. That is very instructive and very worrying. There was this recent meeting about the importation of a certain cargo of commodities. And everybody in that meeting knew that a certain approval, key approval in that deal from government usually takes 2 weeks minimum. However, a very young person from a certain part of the country told the meeting that actually that procedure, which takes them 2 weeks, takes him 10 minutes. And it was not lost on those attending the meeting that that young man hails from a certain part of the country. Yeah, and it is not Ukambani. Neither is it the coast. Okay, let me just leave it at that. So how is that piece of information linked to what we're discussing here? I'll tell you. It seems that regulations, many of them new, some of them old, are being programmed in such a way that they'll only favor certain people, thus creating a monopoly. The long and short of it is that when a country hands over all its major business transactions to a few briefcase entrepreneurs, I can't even call them entrepreneurs, briefcase government favored people, then you know that that country is finished. Kwisha maneno. And once again, this reminds us about the draconian, very sad, devastating days of the Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi dictatorial regime, where many business people in the country suffered. Yeah, and it is super fascinating that nobody linked the collapsing economy then to the way the government was handling business people. Older Kenyans will remember the very mysterious, still unsolved mystery of the Nakumatt supermarket chain being suddenly closed by the government. And then a few days later, it is reopened. Now, what was happening in the background between the shutting down of all the Nakumatt branches in the country at that time? Definitely over 10. What was happening huko na wakubwa in that interim was open to very wild imagination. Were they negotiating? They were definitely negotiating, because it was shut down by the government and then a few days later magically reopened. Well, my inside information at the time indicated that there was a tussle. Somebody had not paid their dues to a very important person in government at that time. Indeed, a relative of President Moi at that time. They had not paid their dues, and therefore they were being taught a lesson. Imagine how the country was being run then. True story. This is not fiction. And then there was the very, very sad story of a gallant, heroic Kenyan called Kenneth Stanley Njindo Matiba, the late, and one of the people at the forefront of the second aborted liberation of the country called Kenya. When Matiba sat to hold his controversial press conference requesting the government to revert back to multi-party democracy, his businesses were thriving. By the time Matiba passed on, he passed on a pauper, a very poor man. And the only reason that happened was a difference of opinion with the government. Or shall I say a difference of opinion with Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. Folks, It is emerging that we are back to those days, and that is how your country called Kenya is now being run. Upende, usipende. That is the truth. And that is so sad. More than sad. Oh boy. Now, for anybody who doubted what is going on here, the very latest development is an eye-opener. The Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director called a press conference a few hours ago. What did he call a press conference for? He called a press conference to show the press fake documents, allegedly fake documents, behind this huge importation of diesel by businesswoman Ann Njoroge. Now, what is wrong with that? Well, don't you think if the Kenya Ports Authority indeed had fake documents in their possession, don't you think the logical move would be to hand them over to investigating authorities, the DCI, hand over those documents? There would be no need for the public to know about them. And so we must ask ourselves the question, why the Kenya Ports Authority Managing Director, a Mr. William Ruto, okay, you heard me right, that's his name, and the chairman, Benjamin Tayari, chairman of the Kenya Ports Authority, we need to ask ourselves the question, why would they call a press conference to give us this information? For what? Unless, of course, they are looking to get ahead of the public opinion, which would mean that this is a public opinion issue. Is it? Well, let me just leave you to chew on that. Wacha nisiseme kitu. Now, I've just released weekly intelligence briefings number 115. 116 will be out in the next few hours. Yeah. And there's a very good opportunity of getting hold of my weekly intelligence briefings by taking full advantage of our latest offer on that book, audiobook, The Ruto Kenyans Will Never Know. There is a unique opportunity over the next 24 hours to do so. If you feel that you need this very important content and your budget doesn't quite cut it to enable you to get your hands on it, for the next 24 hours, you can name your price. Lakini usinifinye sana, and for that reason the limit will be 50. Yeah, the first 50 to send me an email on that email address you see on your screens right now, youmissthis@gmail.com, naming your price. And then guess what? I will also throw in another valuable Kumekucha book. You can choose for yourself, or you can allow me to choose for you. The most liked of my other ebooks, of course, is Dark Secrets of the Kenyan Presidency, How Mutula Kilonzo Sr. was murdered. Yeah. And then there's another one called The President's Lovers. Now that last one of you took it in recently, and they were delighted, very excited about it. And yes, it talks about a Kenyan president. And so, you have this very exciting opportunity. Please take full advantage of it. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.